Good evening and welcome to the program, The Nigerian Governance Live, reaching you from Silverbird Television here in Abuja. My name is Aonduna Ingia. There are a lot of political activities happening in the country over the weekend and all through last week, over the weekend, and even till today as we speak. But a lot of Nigerians are becoming worried and concerned about the activities, the ongoing activities in the ruling party, that's the All Progressive Congress. And the big question on the lips of so many Nigerians is, will the convention hold on the 26th or not? That is a big question. Now, away from that, over the weekend as well, the governor of Rivers State spoke in what some persons may say in a very condescending manner as regards deputy governors. You know, he was particularly making reference to the deputy governor of Edo State over certain issues and all of that. But that was not really the issue. A lot of people had problems with the way he had addressed the office of the deputy governor as though it has no relevance or importance to our democracy. These are just some of the events happening in the polity. But what we're most concerned about, even as we all work towards 2023, what is the realistic chance of having a woman as a chief executive of a particular state or a governor of a particular state? What are the realistic chances? You will recall that the women have been pushing for more relevance as far as politics is concerned, pushing for more relevance on the political scene, and it seems as though some headway will be made, and until the National Assembly voted against certain bills to protect the interest of women as far as politics is concerned. Today on the show, we're going to be looking at the topic, women in politics and chances of emerging governors in 2023. But just to give you a background, we've had women who have been deputy governors over the years. Even as we speak right now, the Rivers State has a female as a deputy governor. She is Mrs. Ipalibo Hari Banigo. And of course, in Kaduna State as well, against all odds, Dr. Hadiza Balarabe also emerged as deputy governor of the state. She is still serving in that capacity. But before now, we also had for a very short stint, Dame Virginia Ngozi Etieba. She was the governor of Anambra State for just a very short period of time, and between 2006 and 2007, just for a period of 3 months. And then, of course, in Lagos, we've had two female deputy governors in the person of Kofo Worele Bukno and Sarah Adebisi Shosan. These are the women who have been deputy governors in this period, in this democratic dispensation we've had. My guest is in the studio. We'll go on a quick break, and when we come back, we'll get right into our conversation. Stay with us.
How has the issue of banditry become so attractive, particularly to the people of Zamfara State?
I will say it's poverty level. You see, there are so many issues, not only in Nigeria of today. The whole country is facing challenges.
We are collaborating with other states, neighboring states, in addressing this issue of banditry and other forms of cross-border criminality.
Who will speak for the Fulani boy? Who is made to trek 900 kilometers with cow? Every day we talk about cow. Who is speaking for that Fulani boy? Is it not inhumanity to man?
People that say, no, you cannot have Muslim ticket. By the time you sit, on the seat, it is no longer your religion that dictates what you do.
In life, you need people to ride on their back to get to certain positions.
Nigerian governors.
I've just been reminded that Pauline Talent was also a deputy governor and even made a very strong contest for the seat of the governor in Plateau State. Well, like I said, my guest is here in the studio already. She's quite known across the country for her work and the organization she represents. I'm talking of no other person but Ene Obi. Ene Obi is the convener, Nigerian Civil Society Situation Room, and of course the country director, Action Aid. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
You've been actively involved in this whole topic of politics lately. I will start by asking you, I'm sure you have been a keen observer of all that is happening in the political scene right now with the ruling party, with the major opposition party as well. But what sense do you make of all that we see right now? Because some people have come around to accept that this is politics. So at every turn of the year when we have politics coming up, it is normal for us to have all of this infighting, this fracas and what have you. But what sense do you make out of all of this?
I think the issue of politicking, issues of governance, we have come a long way. Nigeria now has come over after some time with military rule. Since independence, we've had military rule, we now have civilian rule, and the civil society organizations have been involved in the processes, in the fight towards, democracy in Nigeria. We have been involved. And so some of us have been really strong in the struggle for democracy, for a return to democracy in Nigeria. The political parties, we have the politicians. I think what we need to refocus on is the unity of Nigeria. It's whether you're a politician or you're a citizen, you are standing upright for Nigeria. This is core for me and core for many. If you're an activist, we don't know about divisions between people. We put Nigeria first. And all our politicians, the political class and the political leadership of Nigeria, they sing the national anthem, Arise, O Compatriot. The question for yourself is to ask whether you are really a compatriot. If you're a thief, you cannot be a compatriot. If you're a looter, you cannot be a compatriot. You need to re-engage yourself now. There's a lot of insanity in the air. You say, I pledge to Nigeria, my country. Okay, step back a little to the national anthem. The labors of our heroes past shall never be in vain. For us as women, not just activists, we know that during the contention for the independence of Nigeria, we had great women in Nigeria from 3 cardinal areas that went to London alongside the men. And they only had standard 6, the highest education that they had.
What we popularly call primary 6 now.
Yeah, exactly. You had Gambo Sawaba from the north. You had Fumilayo Ransom Kuti from the southwest. You had Margaret Ekpo from the south-south. And then you are looking at also the labor of Aba women, their protests in 1929, which many of them were mowed down because of the subjugation of the men that was being done by the colonial masters and how it was affecting their families. Women rose to the time. There's so many women that have labored. So for us is to hold the government accountable that the labors of these great women, Queen Amina Ozauzau, a lot of great women that we have seen in Nigeria that have worked themselves out. Today you have women professors all over the place. Millions of women that have PhD. Millions of women who are medical doctors, nurses, engineers, lawyers. So we have them, and women traders, women farmers. 75% of the peasant farmers are women. And so they work hard to feed their children and to feed the nation. But they are not in the scheme of things. So I think my departure is to look at women participation in politics, whether they have been recognized or not recognized. If you are looking at women participation, women are not asking for favor. If you bring in inclusion of women in decision making, you are improving the quality of your politics. Because you cannot be represented. If somebody says my shoe is pinching me, and I said, I know where it is, definitely I will point at the wrong direction.
So are you suggesting that? Suggesting that with some of the infightings and the, in quotes, the politicking we see in Nigeria now is because of the absence of women?
A lot of it is because a lot of it has to do with inclusion and a lot of selfishness. If you know what leadership is, people will beg you to go and lead. You won't want to go. If you truly want to, if you want to be a servant of the people. But in so many ways, we're looking at politics from what we can get from politics, not how we can be of service to the people. If not, you are looking at the issues of hospitals. We are looking at the social sector, education, for example. You know, what is the interplay now in terms of scholarship availability to the children of the poor? Many of the people who are leading now were children of the poor. One time, and the Nigerian government gave them scholarship to go to different parts of the world, to go and study and come back. Free of charge. You just write an application and your scholarship comes to you, and the government isn't, you know, responsible for everything that you go out of the country. And at that time, it wasn't even attractive to stay outside, because you come back home, a job is waiting for you. But today, the scholarship is not going to, if we have it at all, not to children of the poor, but to children of the rich. We need to make our streets healthier. We need to make our society healthier by investing in the human capital and looking at it as a kind of posture that you are investing in the human capital for your economy, to develop your economy, not a favor to anybody.
Is politics a dirty game?
From what we're looking at right now, we will look at it for gender-based violence that we have seen from the gender point of view. If you remember, Salome, our sister Salome from Kogi, was burnt broad daylight. People went to her apartment and burnt her down, burnt her house down on her. And so how do you encourage women to go into politics? The kind of things that we're seeing, I think I'm encouraging and asking for reflection as we go to 2023, you know, to 2023. We need to look at, where do we go from here? How do we reflect and put Nigeria first?
You know, the reason why I asked that question is because across all strata of society, when the issue of politics and politicians come up, quite a number of people are quick to point to the fact that politics is dirty. Beyond the example you just gave of a woman who was burnt alive a couple of years ago because of her involvement, or the level of her involvement in politics, people are quick to say a lot of things. Politicians do this, do that, and all of that. Now the question still arises, or begs to answer: how will the woman cope when you are having meetings around 12 a.m. in the morning, early hours of the morning, at odd hours of the day, and all of that, and you have to actively be involved in politics? How will a woman cope in all of this? And beyond that, some of the things we hear happen amongst the political parlance. That is why I asked that question.
I think for women, I would say that in the heydays of the military leadership, many of us, you know, I was a member of Women in Nigeria, one of the foremost feminist movements in Nigeria. And at that time, we were going to meetings. You know, we take off from wherever we are on a Saturday morning, and we get to the meeting point at about 10 p.m. We take off with our meetings, and we hold our meeting maybe till 5:30 in the morning or 6 a.m. We finish the meeting, and everybody will dispatch. You go to the motor park, wherever you go to your different directions. That was when the money politics in and going to hotels to meet. We couldn't afford it then, but we met, and we used that time to challenge the military until, of course, they came down with the Campaign for Democracy, membership of Campaign for Democracy as well, and all of that down. It depends on what it takes to have a meeting at night. What are you meeting for? Can that meeting be done at daytime? Is that why that women are not able to be part of it? Women have been part of many meetings depending on what it is for. You can have, if you look at many chief executives, you don't have the time. You don't have time. And so time can squeeze you to having a late meeting, and can also be early meeting. And we are saying make it more friendly. You know, some women, of course, are still having children. They can be in politics. And some women are no longer having children, so it depends on who is available. It depends on what that availability means and what the timing is for. And so we ask, of course, that you make the timing more friendly. But that does not stop women from going to meetings. It depends on what the meeting purpose. And I ask that if you know that where you are situating that meeting, it may be, for example, if you have 10 people and 5 are women, when you are discussing even the timing for the meeting, Somebody will say, okay, put this is the timing. How to agree on that time will depend on who is there. The decision to have that meeting depends on who is taking the decision. And we are saying, and that's why we are fighting for the gender bills that you have talked about. The gender bills is to bring about a bit of normalcy, involvement and inclusion of women. Because when you have a male parliament like we have now, the National Assembly is a male parliament. Because how many women do you have? In a House of Representatives of how many? You have a 360. And then you have how many women that are part of it? So it's 6.7 representation. These are 50% of your population. And so when you have them not representing in the House, who is going to take that decision? How many people are voting? So you are talking of the bills that will affect 50% of the population, and they are not in the House to even be part of the voting. So how do you negotiate that? And so we have come a long way. We are asking for extra seats for women in the Assembly, in the National Assembly, so that that can correct the imbalance and improve the quality of decision making. Currently we have Nigeria to be at the last five of countries in the world for maternal mortality and also child mortality. Who is taking decisions? Who cares whether hospital is available or not? In a situation where you have more than half of your population below the poverty line, who is attending to their health? You go to different villages. I think if we take an account of those who are watching now, how many people are burying people every day? Some of them are dying because of poverty. They don't have enough food to eat. Mothers don't have enough food to give their children. And the few that are earning, there are many people don't have jobs. The few that are earning, instead of improving their lives, are paying for the rest that are not earning.
Should this decision be a function of morality, or should it be a function of merit to have more women participate in our politics, for instance? Now, I'm getting a sense that at the end, men should come together and say, okay, let's have more women. Decision makers or policy makers, as it should be, should say, let women have this position. And for some people who argue, they would say that no, politics or power is taken and should not be given. So where do you stand as regards when that conversation comes up?
When you talk of morality, our constitution states it clearly. The issue of discrimination is quite stated there. But we are coming from a patriarchal background. We are coming from a cultural background that subjugates women. We are coming from religious background. The major religions, whether it is Islam or Christianity, both subjugate women. The voices of women, most of it, are not covered. And so when you look at, I give you an example of our culture. When women in some parts of the country, when men die, a woman is accused of killing them. The property of the man is taken, whether the woman has 6 children or 7 children. That woman will go and raise the children all by herself. And many children have been raised by that. When a woman dies, even that night of the burial, they say they don't want, they will bring you a small girl or a lady to accompany you so that the spirit of your wife does not come close to you. When they shave women's hair,
I'm hearing that for the first time.
When they shave women's hair, do they shave men? When the widowhood practices, is it practice on men? A man will beat, those who are, in gender-based violence. The man is a referee, he's the arbiter and everything, will beat you to the time he's okay with it and says, you get up and go and all of that. So a lot that women are suffering, men don't suffer it. So we have suppression and oppression. And when you're doing that, the society does not grow. The society recognizes those who are making contributions. When women are attended to, we have so many countries in the world that women are leading. There's a lot of progression. The extra seats that we're talking about, Uganda, Rwanda did it. They are one of the best right now, by their own rights, one of the best in the world. If not, across Africa, they are one of the reckoned, countries right now. South Africa is doing it 50-50. What we are struggling for today is not something that is out of the way. Beijing 1995 talked about 30% affirmative action. Nigerian government came and established a national gender or national policy on gender, and they said 35.
Yeah.
And today, up to now, no government has even gone it up to 11 or 12%. So what are you talking about? We are saying in appointive positions, when you have the Council of Ministers and you have 1, 2, 3 ministers, when you have so many ministers, where do you want their voice to be? They need to be able to look at the agenda.
If we have highlighted all of these issues, I am wondering right now, because these are some of the things I probably thought about, and I felt, okay, perhaps we should talk about the reality of having a woman even emerge as a governor of a particular state. Does that thought cross your mind? And if it does, are we looking at a possibility in the nearest future at all?
Women are quite qualified. If you can have the Okonjo-Iwealas of this country going to lead a World Trade Organization, you have our sister Amina Mohammed, who is the number 2 in the UN. And then we have so many other women that you can see the capacity. What is it that you are not finding? It's not a question of just morality we are talking about. It's a question of male chauvinism. Because you're looking at about 15 states in the country do not have one female as a member of the House of Representatives or House of Assembly. How do you discuss the issues of women? How do you discuss the issues of, how do you take a decision about health? How do you talk about what it feels to be in labor? That no woman is in that room, and you're talking of hospitals. How many times do men use hospital in a year? Because you can talk, imagine yourself, how many times do you use the hospital? How many times does your wife use the hospital? How many times would they need that? And so gender responsive public service is a big issue in Nigeria. Even from the schools level, if you go to schools that they don't have good sanitation, do you expect girls to be in that school? How do you, and when we go to school, and I was having a chat with some colleagues this morning, he said, as a medical doctor, there were more women who graduated on the team from medical school than the men. What we are having today is that we have women in all different spheres. We have women bankers all over as chief executives who are chairs of banks in many parts of the country, across the country. And so you have chief executive in the energy industry, whatever industry you have today, and you think they are not good enough. We have so many agencies, governmental agencies, and you cannot find women to lead. Of course, women will stand upright because it is a difficult terrain. And we're calling for reflections. You talked about morality. Men will stand and say, okay, let women come on. You are not doing anybody a favor. We are not asking for favor. Okay. And that is why we are saying all of those people who threw the bill out, we are calling for their names. We want the names of those who voted so that they don't go back to their seats. But we want right now, you talked about the House of Representatives. Yes. But the House of Representatives, they rescinded on 3, and that is 3/5. We want 5/5. The Senate has not said anything yet. We want the names of everybody so that we can use it to campaign in their states. We are sharing it with women from all over the country.
More like blackmail or...
No, it's not a blackmail.
Okay.
We were the voters.
Let's just... All right, my last question. Because in the midst of this, I personally would love to see a woman emerge as governor in a state. And all of that, because we've had this list of women. Yes, you asked
that as a question.
Yes, and then now just tying it to this, that would be more or less of my last question. In 2011, I guess, if I'm not mistaken, Sarah Jibril was a presidential aspirant. She went in for the election, and it appears as though she was the only one who voted for herself at the primaries. So some people put the blame at the doorstep of women. If you have such large numbers and it's difficult to mobilize women to push for what they want politically, then why should the society be made to look to see it as though it's a burden? It's a situation men are pushing or something like that. So where do we stand in here quickly before we wrap
A
up?
lot of people will think that because she voted, you know, she was the only one that voted. We have to look at what plays up at party primaries. There's a lot of politicking that goes on there. How many women are into decision making? How many women are members of political parties? What we are doing now is mobilizing women to go into the political parties, women to support one another. 2023 may be tough, but I can assure you we will have many female governors in 2007, because we are mobilizing now. But what we have right now, in a few months' time, the gate will close for the submission of primaries. But we want to see, if you have a male who is a governorship candidate and you don't have a female as a deputy, women will vote you down. And so let the parties be careful in their choices. Because what we are saying too, one of the bills is that party primaries, you know, in party executive, we want 35%. And they should be able to have that representation in political parties. Without that, if we don't see the signs, why do we go to vote for them? So we're mobilizing women. If you see women on a ticket, vote for them. If you don't see women, why do you waste your vote?
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wish we could go on with this conversation.
But there are some people that are
Yes.
voting for women, and we will see all of that as it plays out. We'll
All
vote
right,
for
then.
them.
Thank you so much, NLB, for coming on the program. I wish we could go on with this conversation, but for want of time, we have to wrap
Thank
it
you
up
for having
here.
me.
NLB is a convener, Nigerian Civil Society Situation Room, and of course, a country director, Action Aid. And we've been talking about women in politics and chances of emerging governors in 2023. This is a topic that I know, without a doubt, is still going to be in public domain. And by the way, she was making reference to 2027 and not 2007. I caught wind of that.
Sorry.
Yes, in 2027. A bit futuristic and maybe realistic as well. But we'll wait to see how even this current political scene is going to unravel. Join me next time for another interesting edition of the program. Talking about next week, same time, same station, for another edition of the program, The Nigerian Governor's Life. My name is Aon Dunange. Do have a pleasant evening.